Hello, everyone. Hello, you. Yes, you. Thank you for being on this podcast and listening to the magic, the creativity, and the value that these people that are on this podcast bring to the world. Everyone has unique value, a unique lens, a unique way of looking at the world. And it is my view solidly that it is when we explore and we provide space to express that we get to see the world in different ways. And collectively, when we explore this together, we expand our own thinking, our own creativity, our own ideas in this world. So why do I call this human business? Well, I do hold a solid belief that business is just a part of who we are. It's a place we express. It's a thing we do, but it ultimately is just expressing who we are. And in this podcast, I'm bringing to you people that are doing just that have this desire to express a message or a mission or a purpose or whatever you want to call it. There's just something that they want to express. And then they've converted that into what we call a business. So I call it a human business. And then if we have a look at what a human business is, each week we have a conversation with a creative entrepreneur focused on impacting humanity on purpose. Well, what does that even mean, right? Well, the intention of this podcast is to move and inspire humanity-led ideas. Humanity-led, like about people and about making a difference and about creating a kind of impact in the world. But we don't know what's possible when we go out there and express ourselves, like really, fully. Now, this intention is to create new and creative industry and abolish the BS that we have been fed, that you have to make money first, then you can make an impact. No, people are dying trying to make money first and never go out and express and create the impact that they really can make. So I want to inspire the premise to come first. You go make the impact and the money and abundance will flow. So me, Jess Claire, and my business, which is the #1 social media school for entrepreneurs, we believe that when you express what brings you joy and lights up what I call your genius, you will do both, and easily. So join me as I talk to entrepreneurs and people creating these new industries, and we discuss and explore who they are and how they express their business. Hello, everyone, and please welcome this incredible human. Well, apparently not so incredible. It's just an ordinary human being, actually. Jay Pandya. Thank you so much for being on the Human Business Podcast, Jay. Longtime friend, incredible business owner. It's inspired me so much in business and how your business has taken off in the last 3 years and grown and got the momentum, expanded globally. Some of the people that you work with is incredible, very well-known, high-profile people. Obviously, we won't talk about who they are, but in business and coaching industry. But also big business ventures themselves. So I'm so excited to talk to you today, but why don't you introduce yourself as well on, who you are and how you ended up on the Human Business Podcast, Jay?
Thanks, Jess. That's a loaded question.
It is.
And how I ended up on this podcast. All right. How much time do we have just to answer that question? Who am I? I think, I'll just introduce myself traditionally, how people introduce themselves, right? So, I was born and raised in India. I did my medicine because that was the right thing to do, given my dad was a doctor. And then I stumbled into IT, the technology industry, came to Australia, migrated, in 2001. And, been in a tech industry for 20 years now. And in tech business, consulting, contracting to running different companies, working in different sectors. I worked in environmental consulting to business consulting industry, waste management, government sector, all three levels of government in Australia. Of course, training and development, coaching industry for 24, 25 years, financial services, banking, insurance, uh, and mining industries. So, that those are the sectors I've worked in. um, and now my passion is digital platforms and technology, and where technology is going, how it actually it is affecting our lives. So I'm a reader and a student, forever student for um, and a more from curiosity and sometimes also a bit of an insecurity, I should say, of how, because I have a tech career, number one, and if I don't keep up to really what's happening in the world, then I could be left behind. That kind of insecurity that could also be part of really uh, how is tech being used in the world by different companies, and deep belief in the whole economic and the societal disruption slash revolution that is happening globally, where our society, taken for granted societal constructs are broken down, and the new societal construct, the societal architecture is being imagined by a number of people. So what does it all mean, and how does it actually is in shaping our lives, um, and how can I contribute into making it opportunistic for people, with but opportunities for people with a good heart, rather than you know using technology to just make more money by some people,
Mm,
and while the rest of the world gets left out, which is
yeah.
what I see a lot of it. So that's who I am. That's what I spend my life, my time doing in the business.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for being here. And thank you for being someone that is so committed to going out and making a difference for people that care, and building these technologies out so that, we do have an opportunity to engage in businesses that are interested, like you said, in making a difference. So it's great. And that's why you're here. Because when I think of humanity-led business in technology, I think of you. So, and I'd love for people to hear your vision as well. I mean, I could talk about with you, Jay, so many things. We've even had conversations. We get lost because there's so much vision in what you do. I just, for everyone to know, I really personally believe Jay's technology is going to end up replacing most of the social media platforms that exist right now, because it's so heart-centered, so led by human beings. And so, yeah, the technology that you're developing is honoring people's privacy, but looking at ways in which people can also make money, but not making about the money, making about the impact and influence. You're doing so much thinking in this space, right? Eventually, you will unlock it and crack it once, just like Thomas Edison did the light bulb, right? And what I find really incredible about you is that you actually are using, the profits that you're making in your company and all the technologies you're developing for companies to, on the side, build this side project to make this product really great. Like, you've got this kind of like this side project that no one else is funding but you, right? So, and you're just like, okay, everyone, team, after you've done all the customer stuff, do this too. Here's the technology we're going to build in here, And I love that you do that. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly, and every time I check in with you, it gets better and better. So I'm just wanted to briefly mention that. So do look out for Jay's platform. But in terms of the, vision that you have, you said that you went from being a GP, then in tech, being a GP, then you sort of listed off all these industries. What led you to come into owning MVP1 Ventures, where you went, I'm going to do this?
I think I've shared this story before, but I actually sat down. I remember I was 23, 24, just out of the med school. And, I just finished my internship, and I kind of got a good idea of what my career will look like. Dad was a doctor. So I grew up in that environment of, hanging out with lots of amazing medical professionals, right, throughout my childhood. And I'd seen what their career and life trajectory would look like. And I could very safely, I had sufficient data, right, to extrapolate and predict the future of how my life's going to be. So I did the math. I'm 24. I'm 23, 24. And, predictably, I'll retire around 65, 70. That's what happens. Maybe some doctors go on to 75, 80, but few of them. And in that period, looking at every day how many patients I will work with, if I became a consultant and specialist versus a GP, and about just under 200,000 people, I will have an opportunity to heal or treat throughout my lifetime. I actually did the math based on a daily number of people and holidays I will take and blah blah blah, 40, 50 years of career. And it was kind of a sobering moment. I remember, is that it? It was more like, is that it? And just the profound dissatisfaction of, that's not enough. As a 23, 24-year-old going, that's just boring. And, not knowing any other answer, not having any other pathway, but just the realization that's kind of underwhelming and boring. And all the other engineers, all the other friends, there was a trend in India at that time, study engineering and go to US, you make big money. I'm talking 97, 98. So they used to, after, all my friends were engineers, and I was the only one who was a kind of outlier who went into medicine. And so I used to hang out during the day with engineers, study, who did programming and computers. And that was the aim thing to do and because I used to work night duty, from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So that's how I got into computers, and that interest evolved, opportunities opened up, and rest is history, as they say. So that's how I changed from, and it became, evident in that process that through computers or technology as an industry, the opportunity I will have to really impact people somehow and organizations will be much bigger than less than 200,000 people if I continued being a doctor.
Yeah.
Now, at that time, I had no idea how my career will turn out and all that. But it's like, okay, well, I'll do something in technologies, in a health field with technology, so that, we can have we can help with many people through the use of technology in health industry. That was the thinking at that time. That got me more interested into tech. So that was the kind of a moment as a 23, 24-year-old going, oh, maybe computers and tech, there's a lot of leverage there. There's a lot of scale. There's, as where everybody's starting to use computers. Windows 95, I remember Windows 98, those days. And everyone's got one, and that seems like it's going to be the big. Even talking to my friends, oh, Java or these languages, Oracle, Visual Basic, like those programming languages is like the languages of the future. You don't need to know English or German or Japanese. You need to learn these future languages, having those conversations back in 97, 98. And then dabbling in it. And, that was a thing that changed.
Yeah. And do you think that now? So now that you've gone from being a doctor into tech, you're not now doing tech with health per se, not health related. Now you're working in tech really to support a growing industry in consulting, training, education, development. So how come now you've switched to that? What do you see now that you've seen everything that you have done in tech? And I know that you're also incorporating AI into what you're doing. What are you now thinking when you do your numbers? I'm only going to impact 200,000 people. What are you now seeing as your numbers, and how does what you're doing now relate to
Well,
that?
we have 8 billion.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there should be no one left out, number one. I mean, we have seen a lot of progress, right? We have seen incredible, as humanity, we have made a lot of progress. Uh, More in last 50 years than, million years before. If you really look at since 1950, 70 years, 1950 onwards, the technological, economic, scientific, all the progress in all the various disciplines that we as a world, humanity has made in 70 years. Compare that with previous million years, I think the last 70 years will still win in terms of the rate of the progress, the development, the thinking evolution, right? So and it's very fast paced when you put it in that kind of context. um, so and look at the level of satisfaction in spite of all that progress. We are, quality of life is actually a lot different. The people actually have more money than ever before. Globally, we have actually managed to lift a lot of people out of poverty. Globally, we have managed to eradicate or manage and control a lot of diseases, which if you got it, you used to die. Like a lot of people used to die. Those diseases are no longer a problem for humanity. I know we are in the middle of a global pandemic, but so we really have made a lot of progress. But then you examine the level of satisfaction at an individual, person level, including my satisfaction, your satisfaction, and you look at individual people's actions, the level of dissatisfaction has actually increased a lot more than ever before. The level of satisfaction in relationships, to families, to work organizations, organization with our work, with our professions, that dissatisfaction has increased. So while there are lots of solutions and a lot of progress and economics around it, and we have gotten richer as humanity, we have lifted people out of poverty, in the quality of life and our satisfaction hasn't necessarily proportionately increased or developed to the same proportion or magnitude the way we have done in other fields. So there is a disconnect. And I think that disconnect is not only experienced by, you and I, or people we hang out with. I have a theory or a view that its disconnect is experienced by everyone globally in their own expression, in their own version of it. It's like 8 billion people have this problem called the level of satisfaction with my life.
Yeah.
The fulfillment, the content, happiness. That's a 8 billion people problem. And, you see social media and all that exploiting that problem. For sometimes monetary gains, sometimes for other motives.
Yeah.
But it's a people problem. And, I kind of think, maybe we need, whatever we do, is there a way we can figure out to make even a little bit of a dent? Then that would be amazing, right?
Yeah. And is that why you've created these technologies? Is that the intention, is that you want to increase satisfaction? So is when you say you're humanity-led business,
yes,
and what it is you're impacting in humanity is people's experience of their own satisfaction and fulfillment in their life.
Yes, that's the intention. That's the idea. That's what, we dream about. That's what I dream about. Now, sometimes I think at least in our society, it sounds cocky. It sounds arrogant to say that that's what I want to do. But if you ask me genuinely, I would love to do that. Haven't found a solution yet. Haven't figured out what would that need to look like. It's just, you kind of keep failing at it. But yeah, that would be amazing if we can figure out. And I'm very clear. It's not just us, our company, or our team, or me. I think everybody is some shape and form working towards it, whether they know it consciously or not, or declared or not declared. It's really joining the dots between all those different amazing initiatives and amazing projects and amazing technology and amazing heart people, people with amazing heart, joining those dots to somehow, progress and forward that would be life worth living, right?
Yeah. And is that what you see as your vision? Because you've created a product that is about it's like I can't really explain it except to say it's a very intelligent platform to bring all people who want to make a difference together.
Yes.
Was that the vision for it? Or tell me a bit about, how does this vision translate into this tech? How does it all translate?
You mean Master Dojo?
Master Dojo, you might want to tell people a little bit about what Master Dojo is. Yeah.
So I think before we go there, it's more about, I see education as a solution to a lot of global problems.
Yes.
Whether it's a problem of poverty, whether it's a problem of religious extremism, whether it's a problem of, growing disparity in the level of wealth people enjoy and experience in their lifetime, whether it's a problem of gender, biases in workplaces, whether it's a problem of, corporations practicing, social responsibility, or it's a problem of nuclear proliferation in certain parts of the world. Really, I look at any problem of the world and I think about how do we solve it? And then, I keep coming back to somehow it's an education. It's education, that we go, it's education that will make a difference and that will make an impact. And then I look at so if really the answer is education and not education in a traditional shape and form, you go to university and go to schools like that. That's not the education I'm talking about, right? Education of, can I have, and it's not just the information, see, information in a right context, at a right moment. So it's a moment, context, and data or information, right? It's like making it meaningful for me right now. If what matters to me right now, today, is going to be different to what matters to me in 3 hours time, right? So time is an important spectrum or a dynamic that changes the context, and therefore the underlying content that gets delivered. And our traditional education keeps failing at that, right? So we will put that aside. So I'm talking education as a lot wider context, where the time is a moving component and people's situation, life is a context. So, how do we, so if education is going to be the right kind of a solution, then how do we make it accessible? Because in a traditional sense and form, somebody who has done a master's degree or somebody who is PhD, you can say is highly educated. Like somebody looks at my resume and go, oh my God, I'm highly educated. I have 2 master's degree after did I, became doctor, right? But am I educated in digital marketing? No. Am I educated in spiritual development? No. I have a son who is 12, about to be 13. Am I educated in the distinctions of being a dad of a 13-year-old? I find myself at a total loss, total bankrupt in those moments. So, education is a lifetime process, lifelong learning. And, at different points in time in our lives, we need different access to different types of education, right? And 8 billion of us, I think. So then you look at what are the barriers to education, right? And then you go, oh, I think there are 3 major barriers when you look at from a humanity perspective that prevents us to get more educated. Barriers of language. There's so much Eastern wisdom in Chinese or Indian or African tribes
Mm.
that exist that we in Western economies don't have access to. And we don't even know we don't have access to. We just kind of oblivious to it.
Mm.
So much wisdom exists in the what might be called quote unquote mythology of different religions, ancient text that we don't really have access to. Why? Because, well, language is our barrier. So language is definite barrier, and same vice versa, right? You have so many African tribes or so many people in India or Southeast Asia who would make who get enormous benefit from how the business concepts of Western economies and the developed economies. They don't have access to what we know, marketing, finance, distribution, product development. What we know, those guys don't have access to. Why? Well, one of the major barrier is language. We don't speak their language, they don't speak our language, and now knowledge and the wisdom is not shared and accessible to 8 billion. It's available and accessible to parts of us, but it's just very fragmented and distributed and not connected as a global knowledge base. And you see these companies, Google, saying we are building the knowledge base of the world, and yes, there is a translation, but then I encounter philosophical and value-based differences with some of these platforms and these companies. And then more of a business models, right? So anyway, I will put that aside. So first barrier to education is language. Second barrier is, economics, the pricing. People just can't afford certain types of education. What I can learn a lot from you, but I can't afford what you charge. And there has to be a fair value exchange.
Yeah.
As an example, right? So many people would love to go and learn, those courses people do 3 days and 5 days, educational programs and seminars and events and workshops, but people can't afford it. And the people who provide those education, they have to make it an economically viable business model. So they have to charge certain amount of money. And then the moment you decide that you have to charge certain amount of money for that 3-day seminar or workshop, or whatever experience or education you are delivering, in the moment of that decision, you dissected the 8 billion people into those who can and those who can't. And unfortunately, those who can't is a very large mass compared to those who can. Right? So that's an example where the economics is a barrier. The pricing is a barrier. Affordability is a barrier. So we got language as a barrier. Affordability is a second barrier. Pricing is a second barrier. And the third barrier is just geography. More, evident now than ever before in the time of, global pandemic. We just can't travel. We just take it for granted. How frequently we just take a flight and go to Sydney, and go to Singapore, take a flight and 14 hours later you are in US. Just can't do that anymore. And that's also another barrier. Certain educational experiences are only accessible when you go there physically. So that's also another barrier.
Yeah, wow.
So those three barriers. So we look at how do you transcend these barriers, and that's where the technology comes in, where we are looking at, can we take the wisdom of this wisdom that exists in the world, right? The knowledge that exists in the world, and train AI in that wisdom as much as it may never be the same as the source, right? Let's say you are a source of humanity-led business, and you're the knowledge, the wealth, the wisdom that you have, the AI, we train an AI to become like Jess, like you. It may never be like you, but can it come close to being like you, or relaying the information and data that you have accumulated by virtue of you being in your business, by virtue of your own development. Then, there are millions of people who would love to learn what you have to share or what you have to contribute. But you're a real human with time and, economics and other barriers. that AI necessarily doesn't need to have. So
Mm.
AI, translation algorithms and, creating the business model around that artificial intelligence so that 8 billion can access the knowledge, the wisdom that they need at a given context of their life, at a given time in their life, in a way that is affordable. If we can do that, then we would have done something worthwhile with our time, skills, knowledge, expertise, and education that we had.
Wow.
So that's what we are working on.
Wow. So effectively, you're working on becoming and creating virtual coaches, virtual educators, virtual facilitators. I mean, it is a problem that I do have in my own business. I have to, and ultimately, the biggest problem is the amount of money you have to charge. So as I get busier, I have to charge more. And that means only certain people have it be available. And I don't like to charge more. I wish I didn't have to. And, I've tried out group programs, but I'm much more effective one-on-one. So it's like, you're not really getting what you really want anyway in a group. You really do want that one-on-one. So it's like, yeah, it is really a challenge to duplicate myself. And then if you do get, sort of models that work like Tony Robbins, where you train up people, that takes quite a significant amount of time to really, like, what I'm trying to do here is embed an ethos that doesn't currently exist. So it's like I'm taking a lot of time training people. So I love the idea of this, because what it seems to make available is you're taking, like you said, you're not discriminating against the wisdom. It's like ancient wisdom, Eastern wisdom, Western wisdom, Jess's wisdom, someone else's wisdom. And it's putting it into a virtual experience for people who might be able to then go, like you said, you change every moment. I might go, I don't know, something happens in my business. I get really upset and I need a bit of Tony Robbins,
That's right. So yeah, at different points in time,
Yeah.
we want different things. We need different pearls of wisdom. Let's just put it that way, right?
Yeah.
So, and they are not accessible because of those barriers.
Mm.
That's what we want to solve. That's what we are building.
That's beautiful. I do. And so, one of the things that is going around at the moment is this concern about AI becoming more like a weapon. I don't know if you've watched the movie The Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
Oh, you, of course. And they do make some great points there about what, you're going out to make a difference to people's satisfaction and fulfillment, right? With this intention of impacting people's satisfaction and fulfillment. And yet right now what we have is a situation where we can see, and there's some correlation studies that actually tell us that social media and some of these new technologies and AIs are selling a lot of stuff. Like, it's crazy how much is getting sold actually. But at the same time, there's evidence that it's even made satisfaction and fulfillment worse. Like, it's exponentially made it worse.
Correct.
So yeah, what do you?
Model. It's the problem with the business model, where the entire business model is based on people's attention. Sometimes I talked about with my team, can we create a product that does not always engage people's attention? Can it be boring enough where people complete a task on an app and then get on with their life? Why do we have to create an app that is engaging, engagement being a metric? Why can't it just be a useful utility? Why can't technology be an enabler and a utility for me to get on with my life and help me with my life versus drawing my attention? So it comes down to the business model. I have been criticized a lot for the product. It's not engaging enough. It's not, doesn't command the attention. And sometimes I go, well, it's not a bad thing. Now, it's an internal conflict I have because, people have to use it. And for people to use it, it's got to be engaging and people's attention grabbing. But that's the conflict. from the philosophy versus the ground reality, people have gotten so used to attention-grabbing user experiences that somehow results into these engagement metrics, where people's engagement and attention is now commercialized. To me, it's a business model issue than any other issue. But we got to solve those problems. Not that I have solved it so far, right? Is how do we make the technology useful, enabling in living, getting on with, people living their lives and fulfilling on what really matters to them. But at the same time, making it an available and instantaneously useful tool.
I think,
rich.
Yeah, I think it's actually a really great point. I mean, I'm in brand marketing sales, right? I teach people humanity-led business curriculum. And largely to get started up, you have to use the same business model. It's like, if you want to get started up in business right now, even in humanity-led business, you use the thing that gives you the most attention.
Correct.
Right. So I'm saying, I'm personally don't know that I hope there's a way in the future. I'm saying right now, I don't know what it is, but I'm going, well, the system itself is not working, but you've got to get into the system to interrupt it.
Correct.
Right. So I'm teaching people to go into the system of attention and awareness, because that's how you're going to get seen. Like for you, I've even said that to you, Jay, we need to get this product seen because it's so much more meaningful. But of course, eventually, like social media has done, is you want to slowly change the behavior of people over time. Right. Now, to do that, you have to tell people about it. So how do you tell people about it without using it at the same time?
I know. And that's the dilemma, right? That's the dilemma. But, and I'm sure we will solve it at some point.
I know. I think, look, I just, as I was saying that, I was thinking, your intention is to create fulfillment and satisfaction, right? Now I feel like I'm ideating on this is what happens when I'm with you, though. We end up getting all visionary. But your intention is to create fulfillment and satisfaction. It's not that awareness and attention is equated to not being fulfilled and satisfied.
Correct.
Right? If you think of Netflix, for example, Netflix is not about engagement. It's not got a social network behind it. It's just always got really great content that people want to watch all the time, right? But it's probably a bad example because there is an element of it. But
element of it. That's why
there is an element of it. Yeah, as I said that, I was like, maybe it's actually not true. But what?
Countdown, that algorithm suggests the next thing starts in 3 seconds, 3, 2, 1, and bang.
You're right. I was just thinking that. I think if you take away that sort of gamification of the platform, what does work is to have bodies of value readily available when people want to watch it. Right? Not necessarily like having to keep going, try this, try this, try this, try this. Let's distract you, because distraction has become the new mental illness, right? And it's like actually bodies of things becoming available to you when you need it.
Correct.
And I've actually seen this with Airbnb recently, right? One of the ladies that came through, one of my clients, she created this idea of travel with purpose, right? It's this new event that she's created where she teaches people how to build travel around purpose, right? And I didn't even know how to do that. So I was like, this is fascinating. But one of the barriers is that you actually have to go do the research to have a look at events, to find out what's there. So where do you find events in a particular area? You can go to Eventbrite, but where is it all in one place? Airbnb have now got an area where when you book in, it tells you all the events that are going on in a particular area. Mm-hmm. So it's making things, it's kind of both. I think there's a balance here. It's having people see that you don't need to be afraid you're going to miss out. So not to spark, I call that marketing that evokes anxiety, but it leaves people with a sense of opportunity that's always there if they want to take up on it at any time. So you want to evoke inspired opportunity, I call it.
Yes.
not anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think anxiety is what's driving poor decision making.
I think I look at it more like a inspiration.
Mm.
And instead of grabbing people's attention, and can there be a form of marketing that is oriented around, instead of being oriented around attention, can it be oriented around inspiration and action? Because you need two elements, for the human brain to actually work, for something to make a real tangible difference, you need minimum two things. You need, brain needs to be inspired, right? To trigger certain types of hormones to actually get interested, right? Beyond the middle brain. And then you actually have some action. The person needs to take some action, because without action, there's no real difference being made ever for anything. So how do you get the inspired action? So can there be a form of marketing that replaces the attention and engagement to inspired action? Whenever we figure out that kind of solution or that, then, I think we would be in the right direction in terms of the solution. It may not even be called marketing. I just call it inspired action.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is context aware.
I even think this is how I'm just listening to you going, this is actually how I do my sales modules. It's just not, I have no other word. So I call it even sales, not sales.
That's right. It's really that, right? Exactly.
It's creating an opportunity. It's like opening up this idea, and so people can see exactly what it is, how much it costs, and then they have the opportunity to buy it. But don't worry, it's always going to be there. We're not taking it away. Like, if you don't book now, you'll miss out.
Click now and show the countdown.
Yeah, and there's not this sexy woman with, her boobs out just to make you look like you're really going to miss out if you don't buy it.
That's right. Yeah.
It's like, no, it's just what it is. It's like, this is what it is. This is how much it is. And that's it. There's no fancy, polished crap to make you think it's something other than it is. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
That's what I call and then if someone's inspired by that, they take that.
Sometimes I go, our brains have to evolve for that, because ultimately we are taking the actions, and our brains are looking for those bright, shiny things, red color and, countdown. It's all designed to, trigger an action from the brain, right? To draw the attention from the brain. So until we as human beings evolve, and maybe our brains evolve into how they work, we will keep being in this paradigm where attention is commercialized, and attention and engagement what matters versus the inspired actions. We're going to figure out how to alter the workings of the brain. Goes into the AI plus neuroscience, and a deep understanding of brain's workings. Because until you actually do that at mass scale, the humanity evolves to, choose something that might be seemingly boring to, a woman getting her boobs out kind of scenario, the analogy you used, right? Is my brain going to choose what? Now, that has to be an evolved brain to choose something other than that, right? So that's the problem we got.
Yeah. No, it's actually a really good point. Oh, Jay, I could keep talking again about this for a long time. And again, we go into this vision, right? I just want to final wrap up with one question, because I know that you do have to go. So in terms of people listening to you, getting inspired potentially by the tech that you're involved in, you're in a technology company, but mostly it's like really what this is about is just humanity-led business, like what's out there. What would you say to someone that might be, just starting up a business, or might be in a job right now, is thinking about it and wants to take the leap but doesn't know how?
What would I say? Just get started. Just do it. I think there's always a first step. You don't necessarily have to have all the answers. It's like driving a car, getting behind the, wheel, and getting behind the steering wheel, and you only have visibility up to a certain point. And if you don't see beyond that point, doesn't mean those points and the road and the pathway doesn't exist, right? If I want to go from Brisbane to Sydney in a car, I don't necessarily see all my way. I just need to trust that there is a road, and I start driving. I only see 5 feet in front of me, 10 foot in a good visibility, maybe 20 or 50 foot, right? I'm not going to be able to see beyond that. So you've got to trust that the pathway exists and start driving. Pathway will open up.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, this is Jay Pandya. If you would like to find him, he is on Facebook. You can find him on Facebook. His website, if you want to check out his website, is do you have a website that you'd like to?
Easier is to find me on LinkedIn or Facebook.
Yeah.
The easiest way. Yeah.
The easiest way on LinkedIn or Facebook. Jay Pandya, they'll be in the notes anyway. Thank you again for, having the vision and the leadership to go out and create something that's going to, like you said, you don't have all the answers yet, but you're out to create the kind of technologies and utilizing technologies in AI and what's existing to make a difference to people's satisfaction and fulfillment, to start to see a rise in that.
Oh, thank you. We are calling it Zingify AI, to actually solve these problems.
Awesome. Oh, I look forward to it, and no doubt I'll have you back on again when you start to, put it in existence. But in the meantime, you're creating a whole lot of technology for some great, thought leaders and influencers that are out there now. So thank you, Jay. Thank you for being on this podcast, and thank you for everyone that tuned in.
Thank you so much, Jess. Take care.
Thank you so much for being a part of the Human Business Podcast and exploring new and creative ideas, exploring the people creating these new and creative ideas for humanity-led business. If you have any questions or you want to know any more information, or even if you have some ideas, please do get in contact with me. I do love hearing from you. If you would like to follow me, my Instagram is the Jess Claire Group. Remember, Claire is with no E, Clair. I have a Facebook page, the Jess Claire Group as well. And please do join Humanity-Led Business Group on Facebook, which is called Human Business Collective. Would love to see you on there. Would love to hear from you. And thanks again for tuning in. Until next week, goodbye.